I never thought I'd be here, standing on this patch of land I thought was supposed to bring me peace, fighting off what felt like a battle with an army I never asked for. I came here with the dream of quiet. No neighbors peeking through their curtains, no unsolicited notes about my mailbox being the wrong shade of blue, no HOA newsletters stuffed in my door like religious pamphlets trying to save my soul. Just me, my tools, and the clean, wide-open Florida sky. That was supposed to be my reward for 2 decades of dragging fugitives out of crawl spaces, handing out papers people pretended not to see, and basically being the guy you call when you need someone to get things done whether they liked it or not. When I bought this land, I thought I was finally getting what I deserved, peace and solitude. The lot was raw, untouched, and honest, the kind of place you can breathe and hear yourself think. No fences, no gates, nothing. But I wasn't going to let it stay that way. I set up a perimeter that suited McCain-link fence, cameras, enough warning signs to scare off all wildlife, and most importantly, anyone named Karen. I had my buddy, Joe Landry the sheriff, help me check the zoning. He's an old friend from the days when I used to serve warrants, and he gave me the green light. You're clear, no HOA here. They can send all the letters they want, but unless they come with a badge or a court order, they're just paper. That ad VYC aged like fine wine. So, last spring, I started working on my workshop. The kind of project I could really get my hands into. Cement slab, reinforced walls, ventilation for welding, basically, my little fortress of function. I was a month in when I noticed her. A woman, early 50s, bleach blonde bob, designer sunglasses, clipboard in hand like she was about to mark me for a ticket. She didn't wave, didn't nod, just stood outside the fence, staring. That was Karen Torrell, and let me tell you, I wasn't about to let her ruin this place for me. A week later, I got the letter. Typed in Comic Sans, no less. Notice of violation, property not in compliance with Cypress Oaks HOA standards. They said I had unauthorized structures, unmanaged debris, and excessive construction noise. I laughed. Then I grabbed a glass of sweet tea, scanned the letter, and printed it out again. I wrote a little note in red Sharpie, not a member of your HOA. Enter my land without legal authority, and the sheriff will meet you before I do. Send it back certified, just to make sure. A few days later, I saw Karen again. This time, she had a guy with her, checking the fence line with one of those laser measurers. She rolled down the window of her car and shouted, "This construction's hurting our neighborhood aesthetic." I looked up from my miter saw and calmly replied, "Not your neighborhood." That was the moment I knew I wasn't dealing with someone who was going to back off. No, Karen had more in mind. And that's when I started taking things seriously. I backed up all my security footage, double-checked my external drives, and set up motion-triggered spotlights. Call me paranoid, but I've seen what people do when they think no one's watching. Fast forward a few days, and I come home from a short trip to find something's wrong. The gate was ajar, and Buckshot me dog wasn't barking like he normally does. When I got closer to the workshop, my stomach sank. The door had been kicked in, hinges blown clean off. The window was shattered like someone didn't care who heard. I stepped inside, and the smell of scorched plastic and spray paint hit me like a punch to the gut. Tool thousands of dollars worth were scattered, dented, some outright destroyed. My welder? Smashed in two. Wires spilling out like intestines. And then, the red spray paint across the floor, violation neutralized. Operation Cypress complete. Signed in looping cursive. Karen Terrell, Director of HOA Security. They did it. They really did it. I stood there in silence, staring at the mess. But I didn't panic. I did what I always do when things go sideways. I started documenting everything. Photos, video, voice memos. I checked the camera feeds, but of course, every external cam had been yanked or bashed in. That's when I thanked Past Me for wiring a hidden camera in the birdhouse out front. The birdhouse. Funny place to put a camera, huh? But it had a clean angle of the driveway. And what I saw next made my blood boil. For people in matching community enforcement shirt masks, gloves, and one of those riot gear batons strapped to their belt. I called Joe. He showed up 20 minutes later. Took one look at the door and muttered, "God damn it, Randy. You said they'd try something." "They didn't try," I replied. "They succeeded." Joe and I walked the property, found footprints near the side fence, broken shrubbery where someone had climbed over, and discarded gloves near the back gate. Joe started snapping pictures with his phone while I handed him the manifesto the letter Karen had signed, marking her VY Tory. She actually signed it. In Sharpie. Joe radioed for backup. Two deputies arrived, and they started collecting EVY denke. One of them recognized the patrol shirts from Karen's crew. Turns out they'd been parading around Cypress Oaks for weeks, issuing fake citations, intimidating teenagers for loitering. Hell, one of them had even pepper-sprayed a landscaper for using the wrong trash bin. A few hours later, we had one of the enforcers in custody. Curtisa, kid barely out of high school, was bragging about taking down the threat next door at a gas station. He was still wearing the community enforcement shirt. The minute they mentioned felony charges, he folded. She said it was legal, he confessed. She said Randy was an ex-cop. No one would believe him anyway. The HOA would cover us if anything went wrong. Joe just shook his head. This ain't HOA. This is gang crap and polyester polos. I didn't smile. I just stared at the spot on the floor where they'd spray-painted the violation neutralized, like I was some kind of disease they were cleansing. They wanted war? Fine. Now they'd get one. A few days later, Karen escalated. Someone spray-painted community cancer on my front gate in giant white letters. Buckshot went crazy barking that night. The next morning, I found shattered glass under the mailbox. And those damn HOA flyers started showing up again. This time, they were folded into paper planes and tossed into my yard. Messages like, go away, and HOA pride. Real mature. Then came the city inspector. He'd gotten an anonymous tip about unauthorized waste storage and fire hazards. I gave him coffee, showed him the spotless garage, and he left, apologizing. A day later, a fire truck pulled up, tipped off about chemical smells near my shed. I showed them everything was clean, but I knew this was just the beginning. Karen had weaponized the HOA grape VYNE, using those nosy little drones who had nothing better to do than sniff out things they didn't like. They'd walk past my gate, snapping photos with their phones, pretending to be on morning strolls. I had motion-sensing sprinklers installed by then, and let's just say their enthusiasm for surveillance got dampened real fast. But Karen didn't just want to inconvenience me. No, she wanted control. And when she realized intimidation wasn't cutting it, she escalated. One night, it happened. I was working in the back room, reviewing backup footage, when Buckshot barked once sharp, but not growling. I thought it was just a possum, so I didn't think much of it. When I finally stepped outside to check the perimeter, I saw the workshop light flickering. It was supposed to be off. I went silent, crept closer, and drew my sidearm, keeping it low. The side door had been jimmied open. Inside, a figure moved in the shadows. Petite frame, hoodie pulled low, latex gloves. Karen. She was at my workbench, scrolling through my laptop, inserting a flash drive. Big mistake. The drive bay had a security sticker, one that triggered a silent alarm the moment it was tampered with. She turned towards my backup disks, grabbing a stack and stuffing them in a canvas bag. I flipped the light on. Evening, Karen. She froze, her eyes wide, mouth already forming some excuse. I walked in slow, she started. Planning to clean up your mess by deleting EVY denke from a property you don't own? I asked. She straightened up, forced a smile that looked more like a snarl. I thought maybe I'd clarify some misunderstandings before this gets to court by committing felony BVI. I wasn't HOA-ing it. You escalated the second you sent goons onto my land with a baton. Then, in a desperate flash, she lunged not at me, but at the laptop, trying to yank the power cable. I let her. The machine went dark, but not before I pointed at the blinking red LED near the ceiling. Say cheese. And that's when Joe Landry entered. No knock, didn't have to. The alarm went straight to him too. Karen's face dropped. Not in fear, but in pure disbelief. Joe cuffed her right there and read her rights while she sputtered about community authority and defending the neighborhood. I stood there, arms crossed, letting the silence pile up like bricks. After she was loaded into the cruiser, Joe turned to me and said, "You got a backup of the backup of that footage?" I smiled. Encrypted triple. One on-site, one off-site, and one sent to my lawyer the second she touched that machine. Good, he grinned. Because I think this just turned from a CIVYL dispute to felony prosecution. And that's how I learned when you mess with the wrong person, you don't just face a lawsuit. You face the consequences.